3, Tom Langan in the house. How you doing today, Tom? He gives me a thumbs up. Okay.
You got to invite me up, bud.
Thumbs up what he wants on stage. What if I did a whole show and kept Tom and we just looked at his face the whole time, but we never pulled him up on stage to see what his thoughts were?
Well, you're asking me questions, and I'm like, I can say something, but no one's going to be able to hear me, or you're not going to be able to hear me. Everybody on the internet could hear me say, "You need to invite me up," but you wouldn't be able to hear me say that.
Tom, I'm so close to having I got a new microphone. I got new little ports that we talked about. One of these days, I'm going to be big time. I'm going to ride your coattails and be big time.
One of these days, you're going to figure out how to plug things into your computer. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. We got on early this morning so that we could get Dom's new microphone working, and here we are using the same setup. So you can take a wild guess at how that went.
Hey, at some point when you're talking today, I'm gonna go off and plug these things in, and then come back and see if they're working or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and guess that they're probably not going to be working when you pull that move.
Oh, that's very hateful.
It's not hateful. It's just realistic.
Starting off, Dr. Tachi, I'm glad you're here because Tom's already starting off hateful today. Hey, I mean, after a show the other day, he walked me through, picked like 5 things off the internet, 3 things off the internet. Tom likes me to be exact. He picked 3 things off the internet that would help me plug a microphone into my phone, and then at other times plug it into my computer. So I took his advice. I got these things, and guess what? As soon as I plug them in, nothing.
Yeah. Well, so let me just say, I don't really know how you plugged things in, right? Or how you've got things set up, because the descriptions you give me are, I'm going to plug this thing into this thing. Can you hear me now? Like that's what I'm dealing with. So like, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know what thing you're plugging this thing into. And I don't know if you even have it set up properly, because your audio goes out and then I'm asking you questions and like, I'm like, nod if yes. And you're like, just sitting there. And I'm like, nod if yes, if you can hear me.
Right. Well, just think about that. If I can't hear you, what does nod if yes mean? So
you had already told me you could hear me, and I kept saying nod. And then you were like giving these little imperceptible.
Obviously, think about this. Obviously, I couldn't hear him anymore. Good and bad uses. We're going to talk about, welcome everybody. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Usually we would do like right off the bat, first 10 seconds, we would say, hey, welcome, not the smartest guys in the room. Instead today, Tom pulled his crankiness from last week into this week, and we went right into an argument here. And the next week is a big week. Jason, come on up. Anybody that wants to come up. Next week is annual lumps of coal. I was looking at the calendar because there's no show on Christmas. So next week is lumps of coal. We hand out lumps of coal just to things that you don't generally agree. Practices, it could be like trying to close on the first sale. On the first client, trying to close a client on the first call, I'm going to give that a lump of coal. So that would be something in general that you could give a lump of coal to. But anyway, today we are going to talk about good uses of AI and bad uses of AI. And Dr. Tachi, what do you think if I came on Indie Soup and I had an AI co-host? I replaced Tom with an AI co-host.
Hey, good morning. You know what? I think it depends on what capacity you're using it for and how it could be kind of cool with a real co-host or physical co-host, or physical host and an AI co-host. That would be an interesting experiment. But when it comes to things like that, I think sometimes people are worried about the wrong thing. The discourse has been around how AI is going to replace jobs. They've been talking about it in entertainment, especially when it comes to writers and actors, and even with Sora from OpenAI and replacing camera people and directors. There will always be the need for the human touch because machines are not human. No matter how much it learns from you, it is not human. There will always be some way you can tell, and maybe not to the lay person, but there will always be a way that you can tell that something is AI. So, in response to your question, it could be cool as an experiment, but there's something about humans, and it's funny, I was just talking about this the other day. What people concerned about this? Well, you can't go to a meet and greet and meet binary code, ones and zeros. Nobody cares about that. People care about the actors behind something. People care about the directors. Nobody wants to hear an AI avatar talk about how this movie was made or how this was made. So there will always be a need for the people behind all of that. So hopefully I answered your question with this.
Good job, Dr. Tachi. I want to follow up just on one thing you said. There, like my son's in college right now. He goes to Temple, and my daughter's in high school, and everybody talks about AI, and some of the teachers have software they say to pick up on AI and things like that. So when you said somebody will always be able to tell, could you elaborate on that?
Yes. So that's a good point. The point that you brought up about that there are tools where you can see how much of something is generated by generative AI. So zero GPT is a tool when it comes to writing, and you can tell. Now again, there will probably be people who try to skirt the issue, but there are tools like that that can tell how much is AI generated, right? When I was talking about the creative part of it, like a film or movie, that type of thing, there's always something a little bit off about an AI character. And they still have not developed to the point of being able to have AI avatars and characters do good dialogue. So that's why you see so many of the things that are generated that are videos, there's no speaking in it. It's really only movement and music because it's really difficult to sync the speaking from a character to dialogue. It's difficult. So you're always able to tell there's always something a little bit off. Even if you look at, there was something I looked at online and people were asking, can you tell if this is AI generated? And it was a cat looking out of the window and it looked great. However, if you looked at the reflection in the cat's eyes, there was nothing there. And if you're looking out of a window, you're going to see something. So there are always little clues, context clues that let you know this is AI generated, as good as AI has been. So does that answer your question, Dom?
That was fantastic. Good job. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dr. Tachi, and I think the place where this falls apart a little bit for a lot of folks is that while you might not always be able to put your finger on it, especially from a lay perspective, right? So like for somebody like me, I can look at a piece of video content, right? Let's take that as an example. I can look at a piece of video content, and I can usually tell pretty quickly and form a cohesive argument as to why I think it is AI generated or not, right? And give detailed and specific examples of what pointed me to the conclusion that I've drawn. But for most people, they don't sort of look at things with the kind of analytical eye that I do, right? Just because they don't have the same experience that I do. For most people, when they look at something that is AI generated, they'll tend to say, if you ask them about it, they'll tend to say things like, it seemed a little off. There was something a little bit weird about it. It kind of gave me a weird feeling, right? Or there was a weird vibe to it. They won't really be able to necessarily put their finger on exactly what's weird or wrong or different about the piece of content, but they will definitely pick up on the fact that it is a little weird, a little different, a little off. Something's not quite right about it, right? As Husan said in the chat, the sixth finger problem, right? Like that's one of the easy ways to identify AI has a really hard time with hands, right? And particularly with hands grasping things. It's a really difficult thing for AI to solve for. And so if you look at hands, right? Hands are often a dead giveaway. And the way hands interact with other objects in the image are often a dead giveaway as to whether or not something's AI generated. And I think too, to Dr. Tachi's other point that she started with, is that a lot of people talk about AI as like, oh, it's going to replace people, it's going to replace jobs, it's going to put everybody out of work, and that's not true. I think the best way I've heard it described, and I'm not going to take credit for this because this wasn't my idea, but the best way I've heard it described, this actually came from an interview with an attorney that I saw, was AI isn't going to replace people. People who use AI are going to replace people who don't, right? So I think what we're really talking about today, what I really wanted to talk about today, is good and bad uses of AI technology, right? Because there's sort of a good way to use it, a way that helps you as a productivity tool, right, to do more, and in some cases to do better than you maybe would do if left to your own devices. But there's also a lot of opportunity to lean on it too much, right? To use it as a crutch. And I think one of a good example, and I have an article coming out about this today in my Value First newsletter talking about this. But one of the sort of salient examples from recent history is Coca-Cola's use of AI to generate their sort of holiday commercials this year. And it's not good. And there was a huge backlash against it. And it's not good because it's basically, I mean, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, maybe I'll throw the link in the chat so you can take a look at it, or a link to a Forbes article on it that I read that kind of inspired me to write this newsletter. But basically, it feels like a weird mishmash of footage that doesn't really tell a story. It isn't really cohesive. There's just something that feels off about it. It's like a weird glimpse into a very depersonalized version of the sort of Coca-Cola holiday commercials. And yeah, it's strange. It doesn't feel right on first glance. And then when you look into it, you see a lot of like little weird things happening. But it really just doesn't feel right, I think, is the way a lot of people reacted to it. And they got a ton of backlash for it, right? I think that's a bad use of AI. Like giving AI the driver's seat is a bad idea. And so I think that's a bad use of AI. But, there's a lot of good uses of AI. And I too also believe that, people who use AI are the ones who are going to land the jobs and replace people who refuse to use AI. In the same way that people who started using, the automobile to replace horses and wagons and buggies replaced people who refused to get on board with using the automobile. So, it's just the advancement of technology. I think it's all about how we use it and what we do with it that really makes a difference. But yeah, I think Dr. Tachi hit on two very salient, very important points to think about there. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I think.
All right, let's poll our panel of experts and see what they got to say. So, good and bad uses of AI. For me, I use AI a lot when I am disseminating information. I'll have a bio, and I want the bio in third person. I can move the bio into third person in seconds. I have a bio and an art. I'm a publisher. I have a bio and about the book, and I want to combine them. I want to combine them and make a news article. I want to combine them and make posts. I want to combine them and put them on different forms of media. and have a little bit different message each time. I want to put them on my website. I don't want my website to have the same exact story as I post on LinkedIn. I don't want to use the same exact story on LinkedIn that I use on Newsbreak. I'm taking the same piece of content. I took one piece of content, two pieces of content, and made really 20 pieces of content. At that same thing, I might put, now I have these two pieces of content, and I might say, make me 25 posts about this new book coming out. Make me 25 books about this. Make me 25 posts about this message and this book coming out. So for me, it is all about having general information first and then prompting the whatever form of AI you're using to get down. I am not a fan. Good uses of AI, bad uses of AI. I am not a fan when somebody says, oh, I had ChatGPT or this form of open AI, whatever. Write me an article. I had on what? Based on what? Based on your experience? Like if Tom all of a sudden said, like he's been in production and all of a sudden he says, write me an article about cooking. What substance or what content does he have that qualifies him to write that on cooking or, maybe, I don't know. So, all right, that's what I think.
Well,
Go on.
yeah, and I was just going to say to your point there, Dom, I think that's an important distinction to make, right? That AI, a good use of AI, and this is something I use it for, and I know this is something you use it for, right? AI can be a great drafting tool, right? It can be a great tool for like, I have a hard time getting over the sort of the blank page, right? If you sit me down in front of a blank page, my mind goes in a million directions and I find it really hard to just sort of get the first germ of an idea down. But I can use AI to help me start with a draft of something, right? So I can give it a really, and here's another point, the prompts really matter. The quality of the prompt is directly correlated with the quality of the output that you get from any AI platform. So if you take a really high quality, detailed prompt, right? And you plug that into AI and use it to create a draft for you, you can then go back on that draft and start editing it. And for me, the editing process, making sure that the message is clear, the message is what I want it to deliver, that it makes sense to me, that it's that it's consistent with my voice, like all of those things, that's easy for me to do. Now I've got like a path that I'm on, right? The drafting aspect of AI has helped me kind of start down a road. And now I can just go full steam down that road and I can use it to create, whether it's social media posts or drafting an email or creating an email sequence or gathering information for a newsletter or answering a specific question that I'm looking for a way to phrase or whatever the case may be. I've got that draft started and now I can start heading down that road, right? But you always have to go to it with like very sort of detailed prompts. I think one of the best ways I heard it described was think of the AI as you're working towards a prompt. Think of it as like an employee on their first day, right? And you're going to go to that employee and you're going to delegate some work to them, right? And so you're going to say, hey, first day, I need you to write, 5 LinkedIn posts on this topic, right? That are within these parameters, right? And you have to give them very sort of detailed instructions because they don't have your experience and your time kind of in the seat or at the job, right? So you give it all the detail it needs and then you kind of let it go, right? And have it create some stuff. And then as you would with a day one employee, you go back and you edit, you provide some feedback, you say, okay, that was great, but it needs to be a little bit more like this. Try again, right? And you go back and forth a few times, and then you get a product, you put your final touches on it, and you can send it out, right? But again, it's a drafting tool. But think of it as like an entry-level employee on day one of their job. Like that's how detailed and how specific and how clear you have to be with your prompts in order to generate good content out of generative AI like ChatGPT. But yeah, so I just wanted to throw that in. I think it's a great drafting tool. That is a good use for AI. I'm going to give that a stamp of approval.
Not a lump of coal. Okay, let's go. Julie Loken, you put out a lot of content. You help a lot of people create. Good uses of AI, bad uses of AI. What do you got for us?
Wow, this is a great topic. So what I did, I asked AI what the good uses of AI are in business and the bad uses. So I'm going to just read it really quickly because it's interesting, because I actually had different thoughts, and I might make a point here that will hopefully get Tom really, really excited. Okay. So I asked AI, ChatGPT, what the good uses are, and they say customer experience, operational efficiency, data-driven decision-making, product innovation, marketing optimization, employee productivity, and sustainability efforts. So I agree with most of those. The bad uses of AI: unethical customer manipulation, bias and discrimination, job displacement without support, lack of transparency, cyber security risks, propaganda, and disinformation. 7, and finally, over optimization without ethics. Agree with a lot of those, but what came to mind for me, especially with the negative, was plagiarism, which I betcha all the little students and all the middle school and high school and college lands want to use AI to make their life easier. But for business, I believe it's going to come back and bite people in the butt, plagiarizing people's other words, because it is skimming the bowels of the World Wide Web and taking other people's ideas and making them think that they're your own. And truly, I see AI as an amazing support system to my business. One of the fun things you can do on AI, if you know prompts and play around with prompts, is do a brand audit on yourself and ask them to take a look at your website or your digital presence and ask AI, ChatGPT, what they think. So AI did give me some great answers, but it goes back to that human element that I believe that is, it can never, well, at least right now, I'm not going to say never, because who knows what will happen in 10 years, but it can't replace the human element. And I actually wrote an article this year, why generative AI will fail. It is because of the human element. However, it is a great support system to your business. Thank you. And thank you, ChatGPT. I land my plane here. Wait, I have to do a little sound. Hang on.
Thanks for the plane landing sound.
You're welcome.
So yeah, you didn't really push my buttons, Julie. I mostly agree with what you said.
I didn't want
there.
to push your buttons. I just thought you would find it amusing.
Yeah.
Used AI to ask about
Yeah.
AI.
I mean, look, I mostly agree with what you said. I think at the end of the day, it's a great tool, but it's a tool. And when left to stand on its own, it falls far short of the mark, right? Just like any other tool does, right? A tool is a way to get a job done, right? It's something that helps you accomplish a thing, right? It is not the thing in and of itself, right? A hammer helps you build a house, but it's not a house, right? And AI is like a hammer, right? It's a tool. So it helps you create something, but it is not that thing in and of itself. And I think that's the sort of the big mistake that a lot of people make, is they think, oh, well, AI can just do it. It is that thing, right? Generative AI is that thing. It is that finished product, and it's not. It's a tool to help create a finished product. I do have to hard disagree with one thing you said, though, Julie, and that is that generative AI will fail. It will not. Generative AI is not going to fail. It's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to be in use in multiple forms. It's going to continue to evolve as a technology that will be used going forward, but it's not going to fail and go away. That's just not going to happen. I have to hard disagree on that.
The caveat is that it can't capture the human essence, the human brain. That's really what I meant. It's not going to fail, but it fails to, like, I believe the human experience, really, us as humans are the best vehicles for building our business, our brand. And that's kind of what it's not going to fail, but it can never reach that level as of this point.
I
Yeah,
think the key
no,
word
it,
to that is a yet. I think
yeah.
yet goes with that.
Well, I think, yeah, Hassan, to your point, I mean, I think it does fundamentally fail at replacing human work, right? That sort of whatever, that unquantifiable human touch, however you want to describe it, it does fail at that. But I don't think it was ever meant to succeed at that, at least not in its current form, right? Like the generative AI that we have now was never designed or intended to be indistinguishable from humans. So in the future, could it be something that's much, much harder to discern, that we're going to have to sort of maybe institute fail safes so that it's clear when something is AI generated versus human generated, because it becomes really hard to tell the difference? Possibly, right? Is that possible in the future? Absolutely. Are we there yet? No, definitely not. So yeah, and I think one other thing too, I just wanted to hit real quick in the chat, because Chris has said this a couple of times, and I think he's not a super technical person himself, and I think that's why he's mentioned it twice. But he's mentioned that, you know, AI can be used to scam older folks and people who are not technologically fluent, or, as he says, Luddites, right? And that's absolutely true. But so can sort of any other technology. I think that just falls into a bad use case, right? Like, that is a bad use of AI. Bad. Don't do that. Don't scam old people. But, you know, that can be true of, you know, phones, right? Phones have been used to scam people for 50 years. Yeah, but anyway, it definitely can be used, and people need to be aware of it. Absolutely. But that's a bad use. Naughty. No, thank you. Cut it
All
out.
right, no, thank you. One bad juice. There you go. On good bad juices AI. We appreciate everybody for being here. We're here every Wednesday, most of the time, unless we're traveling the country in the summer. Tom's having a baby, or it's Christmas, or Tom's wife is having a baby. But I think you can say, can you say
in 2025?
Julie, when Tom's wife has a baby, can we say Tom's having a baby? Is that appropriate or not appropriate?
He is going to be a dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't say that. I never said that.
You never say that you were a dad. You're a dad this year.
I just wonder, is that bad etiquette to say, like,
say we're having a baby? I'm like, hell no, you're not. You didn't gain 25, 30 pounds and push a watermelon out of your, you know what?
Okay, see, we learned stuff.
Yeah, I know. Well, and for the record, I never said that. I never said we're having a baby. I was always very clear that my wife was having a baby, and I was going to be there to help. But yeah, I never claimed, never did the we're having a baby or we're pregnant. I always thought that was a really weird thing to say. We're not pregnant. She was pregnant. I was there. So yeah. Anyway, I always thought that was a little bit weird that people described it that way. But yeah, let's keep going away from talking about.
Okay, I have another subject I'm going to bring up here in a little bit.
Don't bring up another subject. We haven't even gotten through the room on the first subject.
Okay. It's okay. I'm preparing the sidebar, you guys. Okay, Jason, good and bad uses of AI. Jason, who I know is using some AI on his videos lately, producing more of them, and the content is, to me, elevated with the addition of AI. It's on. So how are you using it? Good, bad uses of AI. What do you got, Jason?
Well, okay. So a couple things. I trust that everyone's having some kind of experience with AI, but what hasn't been covered is that AI is to be your assistant. So the tool frame and what you guys were talking about is absolutely correct. But the tool doesn't work unless you personalize it. Many people don't even understand how to personalize their AI, because every time you use it, when you go into ChatGPT, there's different aspects of it that you need to customize the way that you think, because it's assisting you at all times. Now, the way I've used AI, I've used a app called Captions. Captions is a great reel maker. So what I do is, first I go film whatever my thought is, say like if I wanted to cover telling the truth, or I wanted to cover, are you in brain fog? Just like I did yesterday on TikTok. What I do is I present it, I record it on my phone, then I export it to captions, and from captions, it gives you a choice. I say AI edited. Okay. It's not creating more work for me. It's emphasizing emotional points with visual references. And so you customize the filter. So say like I want impact, or maybe I want a blogger style, or maybe I want a nuance. I am giving my idea to it to create the nuance of it in its personality reflection of me. And then I add music to it because it'll give you a choice, like, do you want it epic? Do you want it laid back? Do you want reggae? And then it can give you tones of, like, say, like kind of music, maybe reggae, maybe acoustic, maybe metal, whatever it is, but you add the emotional emphasis on it. You're creating the tool to be your assistant. It's not creating for you. So that is one way I use it. And a lot of people are enjoying my posts more now than they did before. So I have taken on, I saw one of these things called Cursive, and it was an ad on Instagram, and I took it, and I paid $20 for the month, and I did I'm doing the 30-day challenge to learn about AI. And that's where in the last few days, I've spent 10 minutes a day learning about the basic frameworks of AI. And it now is connecting me to understand of, I'm creating the tool, my personal assistant, that works from me, and it's with me, but it doesn't go and create my material. Now, there are bad and ethical ways. And I like what Julie did say. She said, hey, I asked it what to do. This is what I did. I did the same question Julie did. However, the big however, I reframed the prompt. I said, what are good ethical ways in which AI is used, with an emphasis on daily use in the average day workplace as well as consumers? I made the emphasis on those filters, and here's what it came up with: healthcare diagnosis and treatments. It can be a great assistance. However, there still needs to be a doctor. The second one is accessibility and enhancements. Yeah, it can drive your ability where your lack of ability. So imagine you don't have to hire a personal assistant who can't think the way that you do, but it's mirroring me. It's education and personalization of my learning. Okay, maybe I learn a certain way. But it also addresses the climate change and mitigation of environment conservations, which is very important to us all. But then let's look at some of the bad ways. Surveillance and privacy. I think many of us have that inclusion of what we should be looking at. It also can be discriminatory. It has a discrimination and biases applications, which companies will misuse. It has a fake and disinformation campaigns. Yes, it's used in politics all the time and in media. So you have to be your own best discerning decider. It can be an autonomous weapon and lethal decision making, but it also can exploit labor and economic displacements, and that's where people are having a problem. I don't understand it, so it's going to take my job away. Well, if you're not elevating your skills and what you do when it comes to, let's say, at the desk versus a plumber and electrician, it's not going to take the plumber electrician out, but it will take out maybe the data input person. Okay, don't need that. I'm giving it receipts and it does it all for me. So you can't be mad at the basic abilities that it's taking over. So in my opinion, learn to customize every single AI that you do use. I use Paragraph AI. I use DALL-E. I use a lot. So you have to stop thinking about what the tool is doing from you. It's great to draft, but the more that you reframe it and you give it its tone, it learns you and you learn it. So it's better to emphasize the relationships you want it to come from you. That's where I stand.
Appreciate it, Jason. Appreciate you summing it all up as well. All right. I'm going to do this because Tom stepped away for just a second. So while he was away, I was going to sidebar and change the subject. Has anybody seen this? It's the biggest heist or on Netflix, the biggest heist, the world's largest heist or something like that, about those two people that stole the Bitcoin. They stole like $70 million of Bitcoin that turned into like $4 billion of Bitcoin. And the girl became a TikTok or a YouTuber and TikToker called Razzlekhan. You have to look up this Razzlekhan. It is the most nonsense ever on the internet. So, so this girl, she's like from Silicon Valley. They steal this billions of dollars, and then she wants to be a rapper, and it is the oddest stuff you've ever seen. So if you haven't seen Razzlekhan, it is worth. And the great thing about it is this girl was trying to become famous, and she was getting no views because nobody liked her crap, and it was all nonsense. And now that she's like in jail and stuff, Dr. Tachi, I think you need to do a media scope about Razzlekhan.
I have a couple
It
questions.
sounds hideous.
Hey,
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and say that was your show and tell, Dom. You just used your show and tell because that
Damn
has
it.
literally nothing to do with what we were talking.
I know, but I wanted you guys to know about Razzlekhan. All right, fine. Hassan, we're coming. We're going to John Jay first. John Jay, good and bad uses of AI. What do you got for us? I wonder bad. Go on, John Jay.
I use AI every day, and the procedure I use. I write the show notes from my show about what I think it's about, and I do it manually in my voice. Then I research the top 20 keywords that I'm going to use that apply to that episode. Post, and it spits it out. And of that, I do some basic editing, and that becomes my show notes, the basis for my show notes. Now, I just did an article for Newsbreak, Medium, and Blogger or Blogspot doing the same thing in support of an episode. I take the episode show notes that were created by they were created by me first, then ChatGPT augmented. And what's really good at doing is distribution of keywords and developing keyword density, which I'm not that good at, and most people aren't. And remember, almost everything we post online is read by a computer first and foremost to get indexed by Google before people see it. Then I'll take what there are show notes and I'll rewrite this as a news article, and that becomes my content for Newsbreak. Then I'll take that what is in Newsbreak and I'll start rewriting on ChatGPT. I'll rewrite this or Claude, rewrite this as a lifestyle blog post, and after some basic editing, what it spits out becomes my Medium articles. Lifestyle blog posts do better on Medium than they do on Newsbreak. Then the very last thing I do is I'll copy what I did from Newsbreak or from Medium, and I'll say rewrite this as a standard blog post, and that becomes my content for Blogger or Blogspot. I can write 4 articles, one's being my show notes, in about 30 minutes that way. It speeds up the process really, really quickly. But I would say, here's what I do. Use your content first for that, and then use it as a tool to speed up the process. Do not use it. I don't use it as a tool to create content. And that's where I stand on it. And it works very well, by the way. I wrote an article called Facebook Scams and Hacks, How to Protect Yourself on Newsbreak. Using that method on the 7th of December, it's got 12,000 impressions and a little over 1,000 views so far. 18 likes, 3 comments, and 37 shares. Don't let anyone tell you that using ChatGPT or other AI will punish you, because they are wrong. In certain applications, you're not allowed to use it. In other ones, you can and you should.
I think those are great points, John, and I agree. I think those are all good uses for AI, and I think it's important for people to hear too. For this thing, right? Like, John, would you describe yourself as a spring chicken?
No, I think it's fair about my bio photo. I just turned 66, Tom. So, writing is not my strength. Producing content is what I'm all about. But I'm going to use this as a tool, write it my language first, and then use the tool, because I'm well aware of the fact that everything's got to be filtered by, indexed by search engines. And if they don't find what they're looking for, you're not going to score, and your customers won't see it.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And I think, you're probably, John, you're probably at the kind of pointy end of folks in your age group who have embraced technology as much as you have and use technology as much as you do. You're probably in a minority there, but I wanted to highlight that just because I think, the age really isn't an issue when it comes to using tools. Like anyone at any age can learn to use a new tool and to use it well and to their advantage. And I think, you're obviously a very clear example of someone who is in an age group where a lot of people would assume that you can't or don't know how to use AI. And then, here you come and give us a whole laundry list of good use cases for AI and how you use it to further your business. And so I just wanted to highlight that like it's a tool. Anybody can learn to use a new tool. You just have to embrace the opportunity and then pursue it, right? And so I just wanted to draw some attention to that and commend you for that, John. I think it's great that you've done that and you use it as a productivity tool. It's exactly, I think, how it should be used. It's a good use case for sure. Speaking of good use cases, I just wanted to highlight one thing in the chat. Adam, who's listening, has chimed in on the chat a couple of times, and he said he uses AI as a disabled person for when he can't use his hands precisely. It helps him out, makes his life better and easier. And I think that is also a good use case for AI. It's a tool that can help people who are differently abled, who aren't able to maybe use their hands as precisely as other folks, to get through their days better and easier and more productively. So I think that's great, Adam, and I appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, what do you think? I think we're up to Husan next, right, Dom?
Yeah, Husan, first time here. Appreciate you chiming in the chat, man. So how you doing today? Give us good, bad uses of AI. What do you got for us, man?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, some of you guys took all the big cookies. So I'm looking at a few crumbs left, but I'll do my best. When I think about AI in terms of good and bad uses, I'll offer two use cases that I think might highlight the good and bad. And really, as you guys have mentioned, it comes down to the person who uses the AI. So in one case, let's say that we can control for, age, ethnicity, business background, and all of that. But there are two solopreneurs that want to use AI. Well, because the tool is so responsive and compliant, depending on how those prompts go, it can, on the one hand, give all of the information, all the way from the idea of the business to elements of the business plan to things that you didn't even think about. We talked earlier, someone talked earlier about it being a good drafting partner, but it's also a great thought partner and can give, depending on your prompt, the opportunity to think about things that you didn't think about just by saying, what haven't I thought about yet in this space? So one person might use it to really develop a good business, and then they can implement that plan into business. Whereas another person may use it to come up with some sort of a get rich quick scheme, or use it to impersonate themselves as a fake guru. And they may have little or no actual knowledge about this particular area that they want to start a business in. But leaning so much on AI, I think, can give a person a false impression, and we can start to see, and I think it was mentioned earlier, that scam culture has always been around, but this tool can also enhance that as well. So I think the tool has an opportunity to enhance that which is already in us. And based on what I heard from, I think it was someone in the chat, I'm in education and am new. I'm a solopreneur starting a business called Educator's House. And AI has been invaluable because I can multiply myself. The problem that solopreneurs have had is that they can't be the marketer and the copywriter and the film producer and the content creator, and the producer all at the same time. And so having AI at least allows a solopreneur to be able to use those advantages until they can get to the point where they can bring a team on. And if that team is also well-versed in the use of AI, then you can have a really small team to do really, really big things. The other challenge, the second scenario that I thought about, because I'm in education, as was mentioned by some, is this issue of cheating. So you could, once again, controlling for all variables, have a student who uses the latest, greatest tools to do the class for them. They can literally put the questions in that the professor gives, the questions from the exam can go into something like a Chegg, and it can just generate answers. So the student in that case is really gaining no usable or actionable skills. The prompt or the tool has done all the thinking, has provided all the answers, and they're just the conduit or the medium of exchange between the generation, the large language model, and what the teacher wants. On the other side, you could have a student who really is interested in going deeper and broader and can use this not only as a thought partner and a writing partner, but based on their genuine interest in the subject, they can really learn things that go far beyond what the teacher even expected. And usually it can happen in less time than it would take a traditional student using some of the more traditional ways of learning to do. So that tool can really accelerate a highly motivated student. So I think about artificial intelligence the same way we think about money and the same way we might think about alcohol. It doesn't change your personality. It just enhances that which is already in you. And with that, I'll close.
Can I add to that, Dominic?
Yeah, just drop it in quick. What do you got?
Oh, I was just going to say, you know what that really does? What he just basically said as an educator, this reframes what capacity you can learn, what you will learn, but it also looks at the education models we have here in the United States as like, look, let's optimize training the youth minded to discern and execute versus you're learning archaic educational methods that never work, never make a person accelerate their income or their thrive and ability to live life.
Yeah, we could do a whole other room on that, but I'll yield back.
There you go. Hey, Husan, thanks for being here. I see you got that pink ticket. I was in the John Jay room, John Jay and Favor the other day, and they taught me how to, I had my pink ticket on. And so they said, click a button. John Jay, how do I get that ticket off?
Preach it, Dominic. So for anybody who's got a pink ticket, you sign them as an example. If you go to the top of the room, so it's not the smartest guys in a room, just click on that and you should be able to join as a member and eliminate the pink ticket and get notifications when rooms occur.
And we only go once a week, but John Jay did tell me that. And I was in a John Jay and Favor room. If you have a chance, man, I was just taking notes like crazy the other day. Favor was talking about the metrics and using the metrics, monetizing the metrics. It was fire. Sorry, I could sidebar. Julie, she asked in the chat if I have ADD. I've never been diagnosed. I think Julie has more ADD than me. But,
that is up for discussion.
But my wife.
I diagnosed you, by the way.
My wife does say that I could have it. So, okay, Tom, go on. Steer us straight here.
Well, I think, typically, I really love Husan's take and kind of giving really clear, specific examples of how people can use AI and the specific thought of as an entrepreneur, which, both of us are, right? Dom, you and I are both entrepreneurs. We both own our own businesses. We've both worked with teams and as solopreneurs over the course of our careers. And that idea that you can use generative AI to multiply yourself, I think is a really, really great point. It's a great productivity tool, right? But again, I keep using that word tool and I'm doing it on purpose. It's not an accident, right? I keep saying tool because that's how I want people to think about it, right? It's a tool. It's a productivity tool. It's a tool to multiply yourself. It's a tool for education, right? It's a tool for disseminating information. It's a tool for redrafting content to use across platforms, right? It's a tool to accomplish certain things. It is not the end in and of itself, right? It is a means to help accomplish an end, but it is not the end. And I think that's a really, really important distinction to make. And I think where a lot of people kind of get it wrong. Now we're at 10:22 here, Eastern time. Usually we do your show and tell at about 10:15. We're running a little bit behind today. I
blew
took
it.
it.
You said, did I blow it? Did I blow it?
Well, I was sort of joking when I said I took it away, but I mean, we're kind of tight on time. Is it?
I will be concise. I'll be concise with my
Okay.
show and tell, and then we'll get to Carrie, and then you can wrap us up. How's that sound?
Okay,
See?
that sounds good. So, all right.
Okay.
All right. So
Psych, I'm going to be long. I'm going to be long and drawn out. Okay. Today I found a basketball card. It is Dennis Rodman. Everybody in this room has heard of Dennis Rodman. You know that he's eccentric. You know that he has dressed up in dresses. You know, he talked to North Korea. He's done a lot of different things. Before all that, Dennis Rodman was a great basketball player. Dennis Rodman, when he got his shot, he was cleaning airports at the time. And somebody said, hey, you should come play basketball. He played at this junior college for like 2 years. But the thing that's so great about Dennis Rodman as a basketball player is he played harder. When you looked out on the court, he wasn't the best shooter. He wasn't the best dribbler. He always played harder. So today, when we're talking about business and things like that, here's a guy that made it to the top of the world playing harder than everybody else. He got his opportunity because he went harder, dove on the floor, and then now he does whatever the hell he wants, but started playing harder. That's what I got for you.
I mean, I like it. I think, there's nothing wrong with emphasizing, hard work with a purpose, right? Hard work, isn't a goal in and of itself, right? It's kind of what drives me nuts about the whole like grind culture is that people are like, oh, just work harder. And it's like, well, yeah, work hard, but do it with a purpose, right? Like have a goal in mind, be clear about what you're working towards, right? And I think Dennis Rodman is a good example of that, right? Like you said, he didn't come in with the benefit of years of experience playing at a high level, going through a top college program, a top NCAA program, right? He came into the NBA without that benefit, without that experience, and he had to work hard, but he was singularly focused on being the best player he could be on the court. And he was, if I remember correctly, I mean, not the biggest basketball fan in the world, but if I remember correctly, he was a little aggressive. He was a little over the top, even in his play. But it worked to his advantage. He turned into a great player in the NBA. Definitely due to the fact that he worked harder than some of the people next to him. It also made me think of a quote I saw yesterday, and I don't remember all the details of it, but it was a quote from Michael Jordan, a fellow Bulls player, right? That played with Rodman. And one of the things, basically what it was a laundry list of how many closing shots he'd missed at the end of a game, how many foul shots he'd missed, how many semifinal or championship games he'd been on the losing side of, kind of a laundry list of what a lot of people would look at as failures, right? And the end of the quote was, the only reason I'm successful is because I have failed so much. And it's just something to bear in mind. I think, Dennis Rodman made me think of that, is that the only way to become successful is to work hard and to fail a lot, to learn from those failures and to consistently improve. So good lesson. And way to salvage that show and tell there that I tried
You
to
guys
take away
didn't want to hear
from you.
about Razzlekhan today. Fine. You don't
Tried
want
to take it away from you because of
a week
your
from now,
sidebar.
everybody here will be talking about Razzlekhan, so forget it. Okay, somebody who is an expert, podcast expert, photographer expert, Carrie Brett, good and bad uses of AI. Where do you fall?
Dom, I loved listening to Razzlekhan. That I'm with you. I'm interested in it.
See, Razzlekhan's cool. Go.
And I have not taken my ADD medication yet today, so I'm going to say I'm the
ADD
probably
overload on the stage. I'm just kidding.
All right, I feel like this whole room is turning into ADD. What's happening?
Okay, Carrie Brett, good and bad
You have
uses of it.
ADD to be a visionary.
That's right.
You do, and you have to work hard. And I owe you a text, Dom. And I worked at my studio till 11:30 last night. But if we can go take the lead from John J. Wiley, who can overproduce and just bang out content like no one else. AI is your friend for sure when it comes to, let's just say, take a transcription of my podcast and take that transcription and put it into ChatGPT with ideas to write a story, and it's an excellent aid. What it's not good for is bad photography and fake headshots with ridiculous catchlights that are just not normal, or claw-like hands. That kind of stuff I'm not into, and I think it takes away from someone who's an actual professional photographer with a camera in their left hand and right hand. So that's what I got.
Good stuff. Nobody likes the bad fingers. And Carrie, I gotta say, I might give a next week's lump of coal. By the way, next week's lump of coal, I might give a lump of coal in advance to those AI generated pictures of like bio pictures that like, why does it always look 25 years younger than the person is? Like, come on, man, that's a lump of coal. Okay, Tom, good, bad uses of AI. Razzlekhan and lumps of coal, pre-lumps of coal. Wrap us up, man.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to say I have nothing to say about Razzlekhan, so we're just going to slide right past that. In terms of pre-lumps of coal or whatever just happened, like just wait till next week. The next week is all going to be about lumps of coal. So come prepared with your lists of grievances. It's sort of our version of an airing of the grievances from the Festivus celebration. Yeah, the Festivus for the rest of us of Seinfeld fame, right? The airing of the grievances. So it's sort of our version, lumps of coal. We'll be doing that next week. So bring your lists of things that drive you nuts. If it's a long list, then be concise with each thing. If it's one thing that really gets under your skin, that's great. You can be a little bit more detailed. We love it and appreciate it. In terms of wrapping up today, I'm going to keep it very short and sweet. I'm just going to beat on the same drum I've been beating on the entire time that we've been in this room today for the last hour. And that is that AI, generative AI, is a great productivity tool. It is a tool. It is not the final solution, right? It is not the end in and of itself. And so whatever you do, however you use AI, remember that it cannot replace human work, right? It can only aid and improve human work. So don't use it as a replacement. Treat it like the sort of personal assistant or the entry-level employee on day one that we talked about earlier. Make sure you give it clear, precise, and detailed instructions and prompts. You'll get better results from it. And then make sure that you are always putting the final touches on the things that you use AI to generate for you, right? Make sure that you give it a last pass before you throw it out into the world, because people can tell. Sometimes they can't put their finger on it, but people can tell when you take the shortcut and you let AI create something that does not have a personal touch to it. So just remember that you do that. You use it as a tool. You treat it like the productivity tool it is. And then the last thing I'll say is this. As I heard said a couple of years ago now, I think when ChatGPT first sort of publicly launched, it was an interview with an attorney. I don't even know if I could find it if I tried, but it was an interview with an attorney. And someone was asking the attorney about legal uses of generative AI. And what the attorney said was, AI will not replace people, but people who use AI will replace people who don't, right? Use the tools at your disposal to do the best job you can, and learn how to use emerging technology to do the best job you can to improve the work that you do. And I think you'll see positive results from it. So that's all I got for this week. That's all we have for this Wednesday morning edition of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. We're here every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Next Wednesday, we'll be doing lumps of coal. So remember, bring your lists, air your grievances. It'll be our version of Festivus for the rest of us. And we'll talk through some things that get under our skin. It ought to be a lot of fun. That's always that episode every year is a lot of fun. So looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to seeing you guys here next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. I'm Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.